This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin.
Welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Tuesday, the 11th of March, 2025. So glad you could join us here today. Coming up a little later on the program, we're going to talk with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net, see what happened in today's WASDE report, and also see how the numbers closed in response. But first, we're going to talk with Iowa Corn Growers Association Vice President Mark Mueller. We caught up with him at Commodity Classic, talking about the issues that are most important to Iowa farmers and how they were presented during the delegate meetings. And of course, we do know how those all turned out. You can see that video on our website and at youtube.com here as well with Stu Swanson, president of the Iowa Corn Growers. But here's what Mark Mueller had to say. Talking with Mark Mueller, he is the vice president of the Iowa Corn Growers Association. Mark, thanks for taking some time to visit with us today.
My pleasure.
Talking with Stu Swanson, the president, earlier, and he was talking about some of the things that have come to the forefront during the delegate meetings, and obviously trade, tariffs, all that has really come to the forefront. It's something everybody's talking about across the agriculture industry as a whole, not just corn. And obviously, this is what we're talking about today, is finding new export markets, make sure we're maintaining that trade relationship. Talk a little bit about what you're talking to other members about and what you're hearing back.
Well, what's crucial to the corn farmers of the Midwest of the United States is that we produce more corn than we can use. We can't eat anymore. We can't drive anymore. We've got to find markets outside our borders. And most of the consuming public, 97% of the world's population, is outside the United States border. Also, some of the fastest growing economic regions in the world are not in the United States. They're like Southeast Asia, rapidly growing middle class that's developing an appetite for meat. And for all the other products that can be made out of corn. They're driving more, so there's ethanol. But how do you make meat and ethanol? You do it with corn, or you do it with dried distillers grains, one of the byproducts of making ethanol. So in certain markets, in Southeast Asia, for example, you have both a rapidly growing middle class that's driving more and eating more meat. We have things that we can do here at home to promote that. For example, in the latest Farm Bill, we're getting a lot of support from members of Congress to increase the funding for two programs.
Okay.
The MAP and FMD. MAP is the Market Access Program. FMD is Foreign Market Development. Both those programs total less than $200 million, and the amount has not been increased since like 16 years or so. So even adjusting for inflation, well, they haven't adjusted for inflation.
Right.
You take one nation like France. France spends $1 billion a year promoting one product, wine, to one country, the United States. MAP and FMD total less than $200 million, and those are split between 90 plus different commodity organizations: soybeans, cotton, corn. There's even a mohair subsidy. I didn't know we still use mohair, but mohair gets a little chunk of that. So we're having to split the pie among many different people, and the pie's been getting smaller over time. At the same time, our need for global markets has increased. Like I said, we can't use all the corn we grow here, and I guarantee you we're going to grow more corn next year than we did last year. It's just a trend. We've got to find new markets. Now, domestically, Iowa Corn has invested in research to promote or to develop new products made out of corn. Fabric. I don't know if your other interviewees have mentioned that. But
Not yet, but
we're working with a company called Lululemon, which I had never heard of, but my wife and daughters know very well.
My daughter too.
Lululemon is setting up a plant in southern Iowa to make fabric, and I'm not sure which fabric, out of corn. And one of the benefits of that is they'll be able to say, we're making these things out of renewable products, renewable feedstock, instead of out of petroleum products. And another example, this one is closer to home, but it involved international companies. Iowa Corn was the main sponsor of something called the Radical Challenge. The Radical Challenge issued an invitation to companies around the world, and we ended up getting 140 companies and 40% of them were from outside the borders of the United States. And all these companies had one goal or one instruction if they wanted to compete for a prize. It was kind of a Shark Tank type setup, but they had to come up with a use for corn. And the top two winners, one was using ethanol to create a feedstock for acrylic acid, and the other was making a feedstock for acetic acid, which don't sound glamorous in themselves, but those are two of the most commonly used chemicals for making all sorts of other products. And if you could put those in there and say, one of the feedstocks for our product came from a renewable source, corn, in the end, it makes their products more attractive. You can make acrylic acid and acetic acid out of petroleum products now, but that's not exactly renewable. That's not what the public's looking for. There are so many more things, and just that one example where Iowa Corn started the Radical Challenge brought out 140 companies that could use up far more corn. In fact, our top four finalists, they had to say just how much, if our product comes to fruition, our technique or whatever, if it comes to fruition, it will use so many bushels of corn. The top four winners, or the top four finalists, between all of them said, if we have this product going full bore, we'll be able to use up 2 billion bushels. That was the amount of our carryout this past year. If we got those four industries started 10 years ago, we wouldn't have had a carryout like we do today. So the technology is there, or it's being developed, and Iowa Corn, with checkoff funds, with help from other states, are feeding the process, getting the research going. So
a lot to think about, both domestically and internationally. If folks want to learn more about what Iowa Corn is doing or want to become members, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can call contact iowacorn.org. We have thousands of farmer members, but every farmer should be a member, because if nothing else, we provide access to our political leaders. Our politicians return our phone calls.
Nice.
Mark Mueller, if he calls Chuck Grassley, might leave a message with somebody, but when Iowa Corn calls Chuck Grassley or Joni Ernst or any of our other four legislators, they get those calls taken. So political access is probably the single biggest thing that can be done by joining Iowa Corn.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for that insight, and appreciate all the education there on things you guys are working on.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, we will talk with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Back on Ag Matters PM here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and time to run down those closing numbers. And of course, right after the WASDE report, we're talking with Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. And let's start with that report. March, not known to be a real earth mover. Did it kind of live up to its hype here today?
Sure did. Yeah, just very mundane, nothing new. U.S. corn balance sheet was left completely unchanged. No revisions there. Soybeans, they kind of took a little away and added to on the demand side of things, with residual and export demand. Took a little bit away from exports and added it back into residual. So a wash on the total balance sheet. No change to ending stocks. Big news now is going to be the end of March. Like you said, this monthly WASDE report here that we saw today is generally a pretty quiet report, but once we get to the 31st here at the end of the month, that'll be the big market mover with planning intentions and quarterly stocks.
All right, so what did we see the grains doing in response?
So grains were slightly firm leading into the report, and they stayed that way following the report. Really not much volatility at all. Traded in a less than a 10-cent range in corn, soybeans of about 12-cent range. So real quiet day, although we did back off towards the end of the session and did close a little bit lower. Soybeans were down about 3 to 4, and the corn was finished down 1 to 2.
All right. And then how does that translate over into the livestock side of things? What do we see in those cattle and hogs today?
Cattle and hogs took it on the chin here today a little bit. The live cattle futures were down. I guess all those markets, live cattle feeders and hogs, were all down. Hogs took it the hardest, being down $1.75 in the April contract. So yeah, seeing a little bit of back and forth action there as well. It's just been a choppy trading pattern here, and really all commodities here in the last couple of weeks, just been kind of on a roller coaster ride.
Now, I know with cattle and hogs, we did see some pretty nice gains yesterday, especially in the cattle side of things, up $4. What was the pressure that put it back down today?
I think funds were just looking to maybe take a little bit of profit here. Like you say, they ran it up big time yesterday, and saw a little bit of profit taking going on there today, because weren't down near as hard as what we were up yesterday. Still hanging in up there, just taking a little bit of profits off the table would be my assumption there.
All right. Well, Sam, if folks want to talk about some of their market strategies, what they can do to protect themselves in this volatile marketplace, what's the best way for them to get in touch at agmarket.net?
Best way would be to give us a call here in Normal, 1-800-779-1515, or you can go to our website at agmarket.net.
All right, Sam. Well, we thank you so much for the insight, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dustin.
And that again was Sam Trainor of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and take a look at the closing numbers. You can find those on our market screen at iowaagnet.com.
At the close, May corn was down 1 3/4 at $4.70 1/4. Soybeans down 2 3/4 at $10.11 1/4. Soy meal down 50 cents at $301.80 per ton. Soy oil 33 cents lower at $41.93. Chicago wheat down 5 3/4 at $5.56 3/4. Kansas wheat down 6 1/2 at $5.72 even. Minneapolis spring wheat down 8 cents at $5.96 1/2 at press time. Oats down 7 1/2 at $3.69 1/2. On the Merck live cattle, $1.02 lower at $199.55. Feeders 45 cents higher at $277.50. Lean hogs down $1.75 at $86.55. Pork cutouts unchanged at $96.80, and Class 3 milk 7 cents higher at $18.49.
And that's the end of our market recap, and that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com, as well as on Facebook, X, and here on this YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified each time we put out new video content. Also, don't forget you can get your free market podcast with analysis sent right to your device 3 times a day, openings, middays, and closings. You can also find podcasts of the Iowa Ag Matters program, Weekend Ag Matters, and all of our content online at iowaagnet.com, or where you get your favorite podcast shows. From the iAron Studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Andy Peterson, Mark Magnuson, and Riley Smith, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.